So just to recall, what does the word oblique mean? So an oblique triangle is any triangle that does not have a right angle. Okay? Now we have two different kinds of oblique triangle. We have the obtuse triangles, and we have the acute triangle. Okay, so these are the two kind of triangle that falls under the oblique triangle. So the important part is they don't have right angle triangle. And then remember, this is just to recall that angles are across from the corresponding sides. Okay? And remember what we talked about when I name my triangle, right? I name it as, let's say if it's angle A, B, C, right? The angles are in capital letter, and then the sides are in small lowercase letters, and the side corresponds to the angle. So this is side A, this is side B, this is side C. Okay? So when we're talking about oblique triangles, we're not talking about opposite hypotenuse and adjacent anymore. It doesn't exist because I don't have a hypotenuse. Okay? We're talking about a side that has the name that's opposite to whatever your angle is. Same as the opposite angle is. So in this case, we have the first law that we're going to use when it comes to oblique triangles. It's called the sine law. Okay, because remember, we don't use SOHCAHTOA or Pythagorean theorem anymore. We use either the sine law or the cosine law, which we're going to learn both of them today. When do I use the sine law? So you can use the sine law when you have two angles and any side. So if you know two angles and any side, you can use the sine law. You're going to have to use the sum of the angles, which is 180, to find the third angle. Does any of you remember what the sine law is?
Side A, the form?
Yep.
Side A over sine
A.
A.
B over
Side B over
sine B. Yeah. And C over
C over sine C.
sine C. Good. So this is when you have two angles and you're looking for this. You have a side, you're looking for the third side, you're going to use A, so that's side A, over sine angle A is equal to side B over sine angle B, and is equal to side C over sine C. This is what sine law is. Sine law says if you take a side divided by the sine of its angle, it's going to equal to the other side divided by the sine of the other angle. Technically, we only use two of the ratios when we're solving. We either use the A and the B, or we use the B and the C, or we use the A and the C. We don't use all three of them together. Okay? We have to pick two and use it. Now, which two do we pick? It depends on what is given to us. We're going to look at examples so it starts making sense to you guys. Okay? So let me go find an example here. So this is an example where I have two angles and one side. Do you guys agree with that? Is any of the angles equal to 90 degrees? No. Right? So what I know is that this is 95, this is 40, right? I can find a third one if I need it. The question is asking you to solve for length of side D. So the question is asking you to solve for this. Okay? What do I know? I know side E and angle E. And I know angle D, right? And I'm looking for side D. So in this case, the first thing that you're going to have to look at, what is given to me? So I know two angles and a side. since I know two angles on the side, I'm gonna have to use this law right here. Okay? You see the letters A, B, and C? You can substitute any letter you like. You can use X, Y, and Z if you want, depending on what is your triangle called. Okay? It doesn't matter what letter you're using. So in this case, I'm going to use E and D. Why not F? I don't have F. Even if I do have F, it's not asking me to find F, so I don't care about it. Okay? So what I know E, both the angle and the side, right? And I know angle D, and I'm asked to find side D. Okay? So the letters I'm going to use are E and D. So let's write the formula. So the formula says the side divided by sine the angle. Okay? So that's going to be side E divided by what? Sine E. Right? I'm just going to write the letters for now. Okay? So it's A over sine A equals to B over sine B. But I don't have the letters A and B. I have the letters E and D. Okay? So I'm just using different letters. Are you guys okay with that? It's going to equal to what?
38 over 95.
So let's use I'm not plugging in numbers yet. It's going to equal to B over sine B. But in this case, what am I using? What letter?
D.
D over sine D. Okay? You see how I used only two ratios? I didn't use three of them. Let's plug in now the given information. What do I know? Do I know what side E is? What's side E? 38. So I'm going to replace this with 38. Do I know what angle E is?
95.
So that's going to be divided by sine. Equals. Do I know what side D is? So that's going to be D over sine. Do I know what angle D is? 4. So do you guys see that the only thing that I don't know is letter D, is side D. Make sense? So I know everything else except one thing. And this is how it's supposed to. Okay? If I want to isolate for D, I want to find what side D is. What do I do?
Multiply.
Multiply what by what?
Sine 30 by 38.
That's
38
right.
by 40.
So we do what we call half cross multiply. So I'm only multiplying one side. So I'm going to bring this over. It's going to be 38 times sine 40 divided by sine 95. Okay? And then you're going to enter that on the calculator. And then because I'm looking for a side that has to be to one decimal place, so in this case it's going to be 24.5, and it is in centimeters, so I write my unit. So I'm gonna just quickly recap of what happened. So I looked at my triangle and I figured that my triangle is not a right triangle. So I can't use SOHCAHTOA or Pythagorean here. So I have to look at what is given to us. Because I know two angles on the side and I'm looking for another side, so I can use sine law. Okay? There's two formulas for sine law. This formula that we looked at is the formula when you're finding a side because your side's on the top. We're going to talk about the other formula in a bit. Okay? So whenever you're looking for a side, you write this formula down. I pick two of the ratios, I plug the information in, and I solve for my side. Now, the other formula, or the other situation, is when you know two sides and in this case you have to have an opposite angle. Okay? So let's say in this situation if they gave you this side and this side right here, okay, they must give you either angle B, because you need to have a side in its opposite angle, or they have to give you angle A. They have to give you one of the opposite angles to the side that they are given. Okay, so you must know two sides and an opposite angle to one of the sides. So in this case, if they gave you the two sides A and B, and they gave you angle B, you can solve for angle A. Okay? So in this case, I'm solving for an angle. What happens is when I'm solving for an angle, these switches. So it becomes sine A over A equal to sine B over B equal to sine C over C. Okay, so this is when I'm looking for an angle. The other one I'm looking for a side. So let's look at an example. Remember that you must know an angle in its opposite side, okay? So in this case, I have an oblique triangle, ABC. I know angle A and side A, right? This is side A right here. And I don't know angle C, but I know side C, and the question is asking me to solve for angle C. Okay? You see that in this scenario, I have an angle and its opposite side. You guys agree with that, right? I have an angle and I have its opposite side. I know side C and I'm looking for angle C. So in this case, I can use the sine law. And because I'm looking for the angle, I'm going to use sine C over C equal to sine A over A. Why did I use A and C and not B? That's right, because I have A and I have C and I'm looking for angle C. Now I wrote my formula, I can plug in my information. I don't know what angle C is, so I'm going to leave it as sine C. What's side C? 12 equal to sine, what's angle A? 59 over 19. So you see, again in this case, there's only one thing that I don't know, and that's angle C. I know all the other three terms. So in this case, I have to also have cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply this by this. So that gives you sine C equal to 12 sine 59 over 90. So what do you get in this case? operation, right? So in order for me to find angle C, I have to do sine inverse of that answer. And that should give me 33 degrees, or 32.776, right? But because angles is to the nearest degree, so that's going to be 33 degrees. Question for you guys. Let's take back the first question that we did. And let's say they asked me to solve for side F instead of solving for side D.
First you would have to find angle F.
And how can I find angle F?
Minus
180.
95.
Yep.
180 from 95, 195.
That's right. So remember that if I'm looking for side F, I need angle F. Otherwise, I can't use the ratio. Okay? So in order for me to find angle F, because I know the other two angles, I can do 180 minus 95 minus 40. Find that angle, and then instead of using D and sine D, you're going to use F over sine F. Okay? So sometimes you have to do an extra step in order for you to be able to solve. Does that make sense to you guys? All right. So this question is asking you to find the lengths of x and y. So you're going to do this question. Find the length of x and y if they gave you angle x is 83 degrees. Angle y is 35. And side z is 26 inches. Okay, so they want you to find side x and side y.